Hello everybody and welcome to GJ's Lego Room, and today I'm really excited to show you guys the updated version of my tie crusher tank. Last week I had teased that this week's video was in that one as like a little hidden object, and so I asked you guys to guess if you knew what it was going to be, and I didn't get a single guess of this vehicle. What I did get a lot of guesses for was the Tie Bizarro though, and you weren't wrong in that this is an updated Tie Bizarro. Not only is the pod and the weapon side updated, but the wings and the rotation mechanism inside. Now, some of you who haven't seen this original video, you may not have any idea what I'm talking about with the rotation mechanism, but you might want to check it out, or if you're a little bit patient, you'll be able to see the new mechanism in action before too long. I still got to finish the instructions though. Speaking of instructions, the instructions for the tie crusher are available right now on rebrickable.com. Hopefully the link is down in the description. Not because I'm trying to lead you down to the description or get clicks or anything, but if you're looking for it, that seems to be a good place to put it. All right, let's jump into it. First question I got asked more than once, which kind of was a little bit embarrassing, is whether or not the treads move on this tank. Now, I made the brilliant decision to actually film today on my giant Starkiller base playmat mousepad material. So that means it slides really easy without activating the treads. Oh, we got a little bit of movement on the back one. So if I give it a little push, you can see that yes, the treads do actually move. It works so much better on carpet. These things just move like champions. What I can do though is I can just pick it up and show you by hand how they move. They actually move quite easily. It's quite simple to move them around and everything. And they're fairly loose, which is good. You want your treads to be loose, but taut, movable, but not sagging. And I really figured it out on this, and it worked out really well. The other question I got is, what about the interiors of the vehicles? Now, this one, in this configuration with the heavy cannons on it, you really just have the pod. And while it does have a pilot inside there and have some controls and things like that, it's really nothing super fancy inside. I'll even zoom in here for a second and you can see that. So I've just got the first order tie pilot in there. Now, one thing I do like about those first order tie pilots is the hose that comes off the mask. It's like the flexible rubber material. And so when you turn the head, the hose kind of stays on the chest, which is really cool. I would love for them to do more stuff like that, or figure out new ways to do it on like the old fashioned TIE fighters with their hoses instead of just printing them. That'd be pretty cool. So that's the standard part right there. But let's show you the turret real quick, because that is where, embarrassingly, when I did the other video, I didn't show inside it. But even more embarrassingly, it was because there was no inside. I had forgotten to even show it because there was nothing inside there, but now there definitely is. I did have a trooper inside there last time, but he didn't really have many controls. He had like one 2x2 slope in there with a standard, airport control tower thing in there. But we've updated it, so we've got our control guy in there. He's got a little heads-up display right in front of him, between him and the view screen, which I gotta say, I really do like the shape of this turret. I think it's pretty good. And then down inside, we can actually, if we can get inside here, we actually have a much more detailed console now. We've got the little knobs and sliders that are down there, then some sort of a targeting array right there, and then the heads-up display on top of it. It's just a really nice internal section, plenty of room for the minifigure, and he just sits right in there, covers it up, and it's just a really solid build. I'm still really happy with how it turned out. It's not exactly what I wanted it to be, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Excuse the discolor, the different colors on the bottom here. Those are usually covered up, so really doesn't really matter too much what color they are. So The tie crusher, the instructions, like I said, are on Rubricable right now. Apparently, I don't know how I keep doing this, but I tend to use parts that are either hard to get or can be very expensive, but they always have substitutes. So if you can't get a particular part in a certain color, especially on the inside of the treads, go ahead and use any color you want on the inside. For the most part, you can't really see them. I would stick with a grayscale, so anywhere from black to white on it. And that was just because it will hide a little bit better underneath the treads. If you hold up the treads all the way, you can see a little bit through there. You can see I didn't use all black Technic lift arms in there. Occasionally you can see a flash of light bluish gray. No yellows though. I was able to do it without any yellow Technic lift arms, so that was a good thing. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. The only other expensive parts are like the prints here. I think this Sith TIE Fighter print is now like $2 a piece, and then this guy was like $3 last time I checked it on Bricklink. So if you can't get a hold of them, I know that the plain black version is pretty easy to get, and from my understanding is you can get the different TIE Fighter patterns on the front if you want for not too bad. But honestly, $2 for a really nice printed windscreen like that is not actually that bad, especially since it only came in the one set. It's kind of surprising that it's only $2 still. So, all right. Well, I have one other thing that I wanted to show you guys today. And when I say one other thing, I really mean several other things. And those several other things are the concept art for the tie crusher. I got really positive feedback from you guys about the dropship that we did and showing you some of the concept and the process that I went through to design it. So I thought it'd be fun at the end of this video to kind of go through the 2 pages of drawings that I have. And yeah, we'll see if you guys enjoy that, or you may actually find some things that inspire you, because I do still have a few of the drawings in there that were really cool that I ended up not doing. So let's go ahead and switch over to that. So pretty much we can actually mostly ignore from this point above the pencil. I had some designs for a tank that kind of looked like Slave 1 for a little while, and then a Y-wing speeder to kind of go along with the X-wing speeder that I had at one point. Unfortunately, that idea didn't really go anywhere. But down here is where we really get into the juicy bits of the design for the TIE crawler. So this page is actually pretty loose. My notebooks kind of get abused after a while. But as you can see, we have a bunch of different TIE tank designs. And so I'll go through some of those. So this actually here is a Hailfire droid. Just straight up kind of my feelings and perspective of what a Hailfire droid looks like. And then here is a snail droid from the front on, just to kind of get an idea of what that looked like, and to maybe use those as inspiration for the TIE tank or the update for the TIE crawler. So over here we can see I actually drew an upside down Hailfire with the tread covers here. So this is what a potential TIE crawler could have been. And so we had the pod, the TIE pod here, and then the treads here. Unfortunately, though, if you know anything about Lego, getting a tread that's on an angle to actually contact the ground properly is a little too difficult. So right here, I ended up straightening it out a little bit and making it kind of spider-like on the design. And that kind of looked okay, but I wasn't in love with it, so we kept drawing. Now, what I did fall in love with is the circled one here. And that is because I had the TIE cockpit here. We had the 2 treads, and then I had the turret on the back that's partially obscured by the cockpit. And I loved that so much that you'll actually see on the other page that pretty much every design that I looked at or did past this point was pretty much that same design, where we have like over here the cockpit and the turret. We have the cockpit mostly obscured here, and then the turret, and then the cockpit here and the turret. Different shaped treads and things like that. This one's a little bit more developed, a little more shapely, but yeah, they all have the exact same configuration of pod and turret. So as you can see, I fell in love with it pretty quick. So here's a design where I moved the cockpit up the treads instead of centered like on the Mauler or the crawler, which I did little sketches of there. So moving it up, that actually helps quite a bit with the design and ended up being another thing that I kept. And then we have a fun part right here. These two little designs here. And this word has a lot to do with it, is the Bizarro. So on this one, I thought, what if I just had a tread in the middle and then pods on either side, just like the Bizarro, right? I'm not saying it's a bad design, but it's not one that really caught my attention super well. And since I already had a mock of a Bizarro that worked pretty good, it seemed a little bit too derivative for me at the time. Maybe not so much anymore, but I did just finish working on it, so probably not. But then there's this one, and this one I'm still in love with. And this is a Hailfire droid, but only one wheel, and on either side of it is like the Bizarro pods. So we have a cockpit on one side, gunner on the other, or vice versa, or they can both be like a pilot and co-pilot with weapon systems on each side. The part I really liked about this is that it was like a motorcycle driving down the battlefield, and it could lean either way because of the positioning of the pods. And it worked out really well because it got rid of one of the main complaints about TIE fighters and even the TIE Bizarro, which is that you can only see it from one side. You can only see one direction. And so by having it on either side of an open wheel, like the Hailfire wheels, you kind of eliminated some of those concerns that they had. So at least that's what I was thinking. Again, something I'm still looking at, but we'll see if it ever goes anywhere or if it's just a pipe dream. So let's flip the page. And this is where we started to really finalize some of that. Again, for the most part, you can ignore what's up here. I thought of a couple other ideas, but at the very top, you can see the beginnings of a system of how I would design this tank, from the front at least. And that is that I'd make the circle for the TIE ball, the cockpit section. Oh, excuse me. And then a couple of squares representing the treads. And that would give me the very basic, very simple structure to work from. You can actually see over here where I ended up not developing these any further because I was having some issues with them. But you can see at one point I thought of having the ball and the turret off center from each other and not directly in line. As you can see, I didn't develop that any further. One of them had the turret on top of one of the wheels, and then on the other side I was thinking like a cannon or something. But then this one here, the tread was actually pushed out so that both the turret and the cockpit were inside but offset from each other, and the turret obviously higher. And the idea behind that one was almost like a little bit of a TIE bomber look, but with an elevated turret. So anyway, it didn't travel too much farther on that one. Up here you can see, kind of in the middle, we really started to get a defined shape there. The extra wide section with the treads, the wide body in the middle, and then we've got the shaping of the treads here, and then the wide stance that it has. I had an idea for solar panels on there. I even switched the direction of it so that instead of an interceptor wings going forward like the interceptor, you make them go backwards. I didn't do that though, because one of the rules that I heard Doug Chang talk about, I think, is that you have to be able to look at the ship, at least this is what George Lucas told him, is you have to be able to look at the ship and know which direction it's supposed to go just by looking at it at a glance. So again, that's another important design parameter that you need to do whenever you're designing something in Star Wars. You got to be able to draw it quick. You got to be able to recognize which direction it's going. Very obvious things like that. So we had a few other ideas here. Here's another attempt at a Bizarro. The only reason I didn't like this one is because that's what it looked like from the side in my mind, and that didn't quite work for me. I have had a couple other ideas since then, but nothing that really percolated to the surface. Then we have a whole bunch of different tread shapes. But just like before, you can see what drawings are underdeveloped. You can see this one is a little bit more developed, even having position of wheels that I would need on the tread. And that's because I kind of fell in love with this idea, and then I wrote underneath interceptor shape. And that's when it really clicked, is really making that interceptor. So I drew a lot of these first, and then drew these upper sections. But either way, That's kind of how it works. Well, anyway, the instructions again are available on Rubricable, as well as the heavy gun attachment. So the regular instructions come with the turret instructions, but then I have a free set of the attachment, the heavy weapons attachments that you can pick up as well. So it'll be easy to get both of them. But that's pretty much it for today. I am excited for the Bizarro coming up. It's going to be a little while. We've got a couple other videos coming up in the meantime that I definitely need to get out because I'm not really falling behind, but man, the videos that I have scheduled are really starting to stack up, which is a good feeling to be, a month or two ahead of what videos I know I'm going to do. So it's an exciting time. So anyway, until next time when we see you in TJ's Lego room, play well. Bye. Elevator music. Oh, it's elevator music. Elevator music. Putting the camera in a new position. Putting the camera in a new place. Putting the camera. I forgot to stop recording it, so it's recording this now. I wonder if I'll keep this at the end. It's like a bloopers reel kind of thing like they used to do in the day. That'd be kind of fun to do. Yeah, why not? Alrighty then. Zoom that out real quick. Move the tank. Put the notebook in its place. Oh, camera's flipping out. All right, there we go.